decided yet. My call, of course. Dead or alive? Dead or alive? We'll have to see. Now do you understand why the public is so scared of me? I'm better at this than you are, and they know it. That's your problem. It will always be your problem. Time and time again. For years to come, since I plan to be at this for a long while. In the meantime, you can do what you do best. Sit on your asses and wait to see what I do next. Until then, keep on living, fuckers.
Chapter 82. Bree saw to it that just about every available cruiser in the entire city was put on standby. I called Sampson myself and told him to keep his line open. I tried Kit's to see if we could preemptively trace an incoming email, but I got his voicemail. And the same thing when I tried his assistant. I fielded calls from Superintendent Davies, the chief's office, the mayor's office, and then Nana herself. DCAK's story was already out there on the airwaves. Of course it was. He'd put it there to stoke all the fires that he possibly could. Word from downstairs was that we had a growing press army waiting for us on the street, too. It didn't feel like anything was going our way, probably because it wasn't, and that wasn't likely to change anytime soon, from what I could tell. Finally, Bree and I stopped taking calls altogether. We holed up in the office, waiting, just like the bastard wanted us to. We put our energy into examining the latest email, scanning for a hidden meaning, some indication of his state of mind, anything we might use, anything to keep us from spinning our wheels in another wrong direction. The M.O. was basically the same. His online stuff was just another kind of disguise, electronic, but it all came from the same narcissistic mind. This was a deeply disturbed person, but that didn't mean he wasn't enjoying himself. He was organized and clever, and he knew it. 3:30 came and went. Then 4 o'clock. Then 5. He was obviously toying with us, saying in no uncertain terms, "I'm in control here." Bree and I eventually began to wonder if another email was coming at all. Then at 5:30, it arrived. The message we'd been waiting for was all of 6 words. He was efficient, wasn't he?
19th Southeast and Independence Avenue. Now.
Chapter 83. My stomach had never been tied in so many knots, not that I could remember anyway. DCAK was bad enough, but now I was sure Kyle Craig had been added to the mix, and I couldn't figure out why or where this freight train could be headed. Nowhere I wanted to go. The drive over to 19th and Independence was a paparazzi nightmare of the sort that had probably killed Princess Diana and Dodi Al-Fayed in a dark, scary tunnel in Paris. We cut diagonally through the city toward southeast, sirens wailing, and an unbelievable entourage following us the whole way. Hell, we were like the Pied Pipers of D.C., with trailing rats that wanted nothing more than to take our picture and run it in the National Enquirer. If they were gambling we wouldn't stop to issue traffic violations right now, they had that right. 6 MPD units were already at the scene when we got there, and they had closed off the main intersections to foot and vehicle traffic. But what exactly was this scene? What had happened here? No obvious clues. The neighborhood was a mix of residential and industrial. 2 lines of newly refurbished row houses extended along both 19th and Independence from the northwest corner. I remembered that I'd actually read about this project in the paper, all primary colors and funky angles. Just the extra touch of visual drama our killer would go for. The bastard was making a movie, wasn't he? Shooting it all in his head. The new St. Coletta School was across the street in one direction, and the Armory building in the other. It was a huge area to cover, a giant haystack with somebody's body for a needle. Or, God willing, a living victim this time. Was that a possibility? Maybe DCAK wanted a change of pace. More squad cars arrived, over a dozen of them, and then I stopped counting. I wondered when Kitts and his people would get here. We needed the FBI techies on this, all the help we could possibly get. First thing, we made the residential buildings our priority, working in teams of 2 and knocking on every door up and down the street. Everything else had to wait, including any attempt at crowd control. The scene was already too crazy. Camera crews matched us step for step, shooting from every angle. We hadn't been searching long when one of the uniformed officers called out, "Detectives! Something over here! Detectives!" Bree and I ran to see what was up. The house in question was bright yellow, with large single-pane windows facing out onto 19th Street. The front door was ajar and had been heavily gouged around the doorknob and faceplate. It looked like somebody had recently broken in. "Good enough for me," Bree said. "Sufficient evidence of a break-in. Let's go." Chapter 84. We went in carefully, silently, along with one of the neighborhood officers, a scared kid named DeLallo. The other uniforms stayed outside to keep back any particularly reckless reporters, or even a daring looky-loo on the scene. Inside, the house was perfectly still. The air was stale and thick with heat. No open windows, no air conditioning. The decor was modern, like the exterior. I saw an Eames lounger knockoff in the living room to my left, a red lacquered table, mesh chairs in the dining room beyond. Nothing to go on yet, but I sensed something had happened here. Bree ticked her head to the left. She'd take the living room, and motioned for the patrol officer to go straight back, probably to the kitchen. I took the stairs. They were solid floating slabs of wood with an iron railing that made no sound as I climbed. The place was too quiet. Dead body quiet, I couldn't help thinking, and I dreaded what we might find here. Were we the audience this time? Was that the big new twist here? Had this all been staged for us? A domed skylight overhead let in plenty of sunshine, and I could feel the sweat dripping down my back. At the top, the stairs doubled around to an open hallway that overlooked the first floor. A door was closed on the left, with an open one, closer to me, showing off an empty bathroom. It looked empty from this angle, anyway. Still no people, though, dead or alive. I could hear more police arriving downstairs, quite the crowd on hand already. Nervous whispers and radio chatter. The high-pitched voice of Officer DeLallo. Somebody called him Richard, as in, "Richard, calm down." Bree reappeared in the hallway below me. She gave an all-clear sign, and I motioned for her to come up. "You lonely?" she asked. "For you? Always." When she joined me upstairs, I pointed to the bedroom door. "Only one that's closed," I said. I steeled myself for what we might find, then burst in through the door. I trained my Glock on the far corner, swept left, swept right. I didn't know whether to be disappointed or relieved. There was nothing in the room. Nothing there that shouldn't be. A platform bed was neatly made in one corner. The open closet held women's clothes. What the hell were we missing? We were at 19th and Independence, right? Just then, we both heard the first faint chop of a helicopter approaching fast. A moment later, it was hovering right over the house. Other sounds filtered in from the street. One loud shout cut through. It reached us at the top of the stairs. "It's on the roof!" I looked up, and that's when I realized the domed skylight was also a hatch. Chapter 85. "We need a ladder up here!" Bree yelled to the cops below. "We need it in a hurry!" I could see black scrape marks on the wall where there normally was a ladder of some kind for roof access. Not anymore, though. Somebody had taken it away. The skylight was out of reach without it, even if I got on someone's shoulders. Bree and I hurried outside. There was no hiding the situation from the media now. 2 other helicopters had joined the first one, circling the house like scavengers overhead. Neighbors, passers-by, and more press than I could count were clogging the front walk and the street beyond. What a pain-in-the-ass mess this was turning out to be, and we hadn't even gotten to the punchline yet. "Clear this whole area," I said to the nearest officer. "I'm not fooling around. DCAK has been here." Bree and I split up then, and I pushed my way through to get to the first news van I could find with a broadcast tower. It turned out to be Channel 4, parked in front of the armory across the street. A reporter was already giving her rapid-fire spiel to the camera as I approached on the run. I interrupted her mid-sentence. "Do any of those choppers belong to you?" I shouted, and pointed an arm up at the sky. She was attractive, ash-blonde, 20-something, and immediately indignant. "And who are you?" she asked. Whoever I was, her cameraman swung around to get me in the shot. I didn't wait for the answer that I needed from the reporter. I stepped right past her and slid open the panel door on the Channel 4 van. "MPD." I showed my badge to the wide-eyed tech sipping a venti Starbucks at his console. "I need to see exactly what your chopper is seeing." Mid-sip and without a word, he pointed at one of the screens. A piece of electric blue tape underneath it said, "Live Feed." Here was the audience, I realized suddenly. I'd been wondering how DCAK's next plan would come into play. Now I knew. Anyone watching television would see this. That son of a bitch had planned everything just so. I looked at my watch. Just past 6 o'clock, the evening news hour. That's why the killer had waited to send out the second email, wasn't it? The helicopter shot wasn't close enough to capture every detail, but there definitely was a body up there. I was fairly sure it was a male, but not 100%. Dark pants, light shirt, and what seemed to be blood coming from the neck. The face looked strange, though, distorted in some way that I couldn't make any sense out of yet. A collapsible ladder lay on the roof nearby. "Tell your man up there to pan around," I said. "Please do it right now." "You don't take orders from him." The young reporter had her helmet of blonde hair stuck inside the van now, too. It was getting crowded in there. "You do unless you want to get arrested," I told the tech. "I will lock you up, both of you." He nodded and spoke into his headset. "Bruce, pan around the rooftop, will you? Get in closer if you can. This is a police request." "Roger that." Other than the body, the roof looked deserted, at least from the camera angles. "Okay, that's good," I said. "Back on the body," the reporter barked from behind me. "This is live." "Alex," Bree was shouting from the sidewalk, "we've got a ladder. Let's go on up there." I took one more glance at the screen, and as I did, I saw the victim's arm move. It was very slight, but discernible. I was out of the van in a hurry, nearly knocking Miss Channel 4 right off her high heels. "Bree, this one's still alive." Chapter 86. I was the first one up on the roof. Bree was next, with 2 very nervous EMTs right behind her. After a quick visual scan to make sure the area was clear, the EMTs scampered over to help the victim, who, we hoped, was still alive. There was a wooden deck next to the hatch. A flat open area of tar paper stretched beyond that, which was where the body lay. The roof was steaming in the sun. Heat vapors rose up around the body, too, and I could see that the pool of blood leaking from his neck had grown considerably. "Doesn't look very good," Bree groaned. "No, it doesn't." The most jarring thing of all was the mask over the victim's face. That's why he had looked so strange in the shot from the helicopter. It was another Richard Nixon caricature, like the one used at the George Washington Memorial Parkway murder scene. "Why do I think this isn't the copycat?" I shouted in Bree's ear over the roar of helicopters swarming above us. "Or that there ever was one." She nodded. "I suspect you're right." We were thinking the same thing again.